The Carolina Hurricanes and New Jersey Devils series preview. They've met 5 times in their history in the playoffs, the latest one in 22-23, and only one time has Carolina lost. Kind of crazy to have that kind of success against New Jersey. Now, this is a series, gentlemen, that I think is kind of interesting because as soon as Jack Hughes went down, a lot of people said, okay, we already know it's Carolina. And I think everybody's sort of ignoring this series and going, Carolina for sure is going to win it. Is there a reason just off the bat to go, wait, maybe they shouldn't be as favorited as they are?
Well, yeah, because we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here. Because at the trade deadline, the Carolina Hurricanes were pronounced dead because they traded Marty Necas, who was immediately great in Colorado. They got Mikko Rantanen, who was immediately not great in Carolina. And they get Mark Jankowski and Logan Stankoven, who have been good Hurricanes, but they're not the expected return for a guy like Mikko.
What about Taylor Hall? You forgot about Taylor Hall.
Who has also been good.
He's been good.
He's been a good fit. But again, we didn't know all those things yet. They were pronounced dead. The Devils also pronounced dead.
Yeah.
This is the all-zombie series. And they're just going to eat each other and stumble on to the next round. I think rumors of the death of both teams have been greatly exaggerated, and both of them are going to show more fight than people are prepared for.
Jesse, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, this is going to be a tight series. I don't think it's a runaway series for Carolina at all. People look at the Jack Hughes injury and they forget that it's one guy, but they got a whole other team going. Like, I feel like we can't just hang everything on Jack Hughes here. Dougie Hamilton's been out for a while, but he'll be back for the playoffs. So I think the back end shouldn't be as much of a concern. And like Nico Hischier been holding his own in the forward group, and Jesper Bratt's been incredible. I know Devils fans will correct me on the pronunciation.
So it's not
there.
Broad, eh? It's Bratt.
Jesper Bratt will be incredible on the first line there because he's been incredible all season long. So I don't feel like you should look at this series and be like, 4-game sweep for Carolina or anything like that.
Both teams are missing a player who finished the season top 3 in scoring for them. Necas finished the season 3rd in scoring for the Hurricanes, even though he only played 49 games. That's Necas, not Rantanen. And Jack Hughes, despite missing 20 games, still finished 2nd, just ahead of Nico Hischier and behind Jesper Bratt.
Crazy. Now, if you look at, we're just going to start in goal, okay? The Carolina Hurricanes have an interesting pairing. Freddie Anderson, who, as Leaf fans, we're quite familiar with, the good and the bad in the playoffs, and Pyotr Kochetkov. Compare and contrast that with the New Jersey Devils, who went out and spent and rebuilt their goaltending after last season. Jake Allen, Jake Markstrom, the Jakes.
Yes.
Obviously, the veteran part of this, if you favor veteran goalies in the playoffs, I'm going to give this to the Devils over the Canes. However, the system seems to favor Carolina goalies over just about anybody because of the way Rod Brind'Amour coaches. Who do you give the edge to?
I don't give the edge to anybody. Is that maybe not the answer?
No, that's fair. No, what do you think?
I'll tell you why. Both Freddie Anderson and Jake Markstrom are goalies with top 10 in the NHL potential who only reach it sporadically. At this stage in their careers, Markstrom reaches it more than Anderson. Anderson barely ever plays. He only played, I think it was 21 games this year. That's no good. But as someone who followed that Calgary Flames Edmonton Oilers Battle of Alberta series pretty closely a few years ago, Markstrom was awful. He was really, really bad. He's had some really, really good games for New Jersey. He had a 900 save percentage this year, like downright mediocre. Freddie was a 907. That's obviously better. Team with a tighter system. He barely played. Like, there is a really high likelihood that during this series, we see 4 goalies.
You think so, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Jesse, what do you think here?
Yeah, there's no real edge to either side in goal. I think they're about even on what we can expect and what these goalies have delivered all season long. Like, Kochetkov hasn't been the greatest, and I feel like Jacob Markstrom's been like, oh, just solid. You know, they've finished good enough in the standings. They won a bunch of games, but he hasn't been overly incredible. And I feel like that's what you're going to get out of all 4 goalies if we get them. I think New Jersey will probably ride Markstrom, ride or die, you know, whether they lose or not. What's going on?
Well, sorry, I was going to give you a stat. Sorry, I was putting on my finger for when you're done. I got excited. So out of the 4 goalies, right? So starter and backup, Jake Allen is the only goalie with a save percentage above .910. He has a .911 save percentage. He is also the only goalie with a losing record. So maybe we shouldn't be basing everything off of save percentage.
Right.
Again, impossible series to predict in goal.
Jesse, continue, please.
No, I think that's a good point. I think it's pretty even in goal.
So it comes to defense. Now, we know Sheldon Keefe likes to play an open style. That's really benefited the Devils this year. And we saw it in Toronto. He loves a free-flowing game. It does mean you give up some crazy leads, but it does mean you can score at any time, and the Devils can do that. A little less without Jack Hughes in the lineup, but let's talk about defense here. Luke Hughes is still playing. That's great. Yes. Another Hughes. Yes. Dougie Hamilton will be back. Brett Pesce, Brian Dumoulin, Jonathan Kovacevic, Brandon Dillon, Simon Nemec. That's a pretty solid 7.
Not just solid, huge. Not a fun group to play.
And that's decidedly not what Sheldon Keefe had in Toronto. He did not have big defense.
It's not. He had like token big guy and also a couple big for nothing guys. The Devils don't really have that. Adding Dougie Hamilton to that group, I said this at the deadline. I want to say that was around the time where they lost Jack Hughes and what's the point? And I was like, I don't know, that decor is pretty crazy. So I think that's a factor in this. Like every year, the NHL has this unbelievable ability to every April make us forget what playoff hockey looks like.
Yes.
And I look at the Devils decor and I go, good job. Like that's exactly what you should be trying to build. If you're gonna try to win, right? What are you gonna do? Are you going to try to replace Jack Hughes or be huge on the back end and make the other team worse? You're better off doing that.
Now, on the Carolina side, Slavin, Brent Burns, who's still kicking, Dmitry Orlov, Jalen Chatfield, Sean Walker, Scott Morrow, pretty solid. And I think, Jesse, probably a little bit underrated in terms of, because so much of what happens in Carolina everybody gives them credit for the system, but not the players using the system. And we saw Jacob Slavin play for Team USA and be absolutely outstanding. And we go, oh yeah, he's so great. What do you think about Carolina's defense as it compares to New Jersey?
Yeah, what a fun coming out party for Slavin, where it's like, hey, we can appreciate that side of hockey too. Like, it's not all about the Cale Makars or the Quinn Hughes of the world who are going to put up a bunch of points. It's also about the guy who is not going to do that offensively, but is an absolute shutdown machine. And that's what Slavin is. And I think, like, Carolina has a bad rap. I think it was Chris Cuthbert who, on the Leafs broadcast when they played them a week ago now, about when you're hearing this, he called them the Corsi Kings because they drive up the Corsi numbers, right?
Yep.
Well, we talked about that on a recent podcast, right?
Yeah.
With the scoring chances.
Yeah,
not being all that scary.
Everything's always in favor of, in terms of the advanced analytics that you measure to be like, oh, did they perform well that game or not? You know, they don't allow a lot of shots. They get a lot of their shots, and that makes things out of balance. But the reason they don't allow a lot of shots on their end is because they also have great players that can play in a fantastic system that Rod Brind'Amour is deploying. So yeah, I don't really have any complaints about the defense in Carolina. It's about if they can capitalize on opportunities and score. Up
front for New Jersey, there are a ton, gentlemen, of playoff performers. I'm talking about Eric Haula. I'm talking about Andre Palat. We've seen Timo Meier have great playoffs. And obviously, you know, without Jack Hughes there, they still have Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer, Cody Glass, and Justin Dowling down the center. Mm-hmm. So serviceable. We've seen many teams take the ice in the first round of the playoffs, do better than anyone is expecting the Devils to do, and have way worse center cores than that.
Yeah.
Way worse. So let's talk about the forward group for the Devils. Without Jack Hughes, what kind of style are they playing now? Does it change the style, or is it still high flying?
Well, I mean, any team with Jesper Bratt is still going to be extremely high flying. You know, we talked about the coming out party for Jacob Slavin. Sweden didn't have the strongest tournament, but every time Bratt was on the ice, I was like, holy crap. Like,
He's crazy.
This guy might be their best player, definitely their best forward. He was really good. The guy I have an eye on, and maybe this is really hipster of me, because I feel like the Devils have to play a bigger, meaner game in order to beat the Hurricanes. Stefan Nason needs to be better. So last year, Nason was on the Hurricanes. He was actually on the Hurricanes each of their last two playoffs.
And valuable to them.
Valuable, but to me wasn't good enough in the playoffs.
Okay.
So Nason was a former first rounder, and the way he got back into the NHL after struggling for so long, he had a 48 goal, 85 point in 70 game season in the AHL that he capped off with 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points in 18 games en route to a championship. So for him, the Calder Cup meant something. Right? Because that's what got him into Carolina's lineup the next season. It's what got him power play time. But in each of Carolina's last 2 playoff runs, in 15 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. That's pretty good. Last year, he didn't get a single assist in 11 games, and he still contributed just the 4 goals. Now that he's on the other side, now that he's joined the Devils, if he can be big for them, if they adapt their style to, allow him to bang in rebounds and everything, I think he could be a bigger factor than people think. And he's not Jack Hughes, not at all. So that's the kind of team the Devils need to be. You're like, oh, who steps up? I'm like, the big dude who gets like half a point a game. You can't replace Jack Hughes.
Jesse, what do you think about the Devils up front?
They've really struggled to score since the second half of the season. Since March 1st, in terms of total goals scored in the entire league, they are 31st.
Yes.
Which is not great.
Is that good or bad?
They sit almost dead last.
And you're going into a series against the Canes.
Yeah, so I think they might struggle to score because they have in recent memory, but the playoffs are different. Things definitely change once the playoffs start, and they haven't been playing for anything. Unfortunately, the way the NHL has aligned their playoff system, they've been sitting in third all second half of the season, and there hasn't been much change. So there hasn't been a lot for them to play for. I don't know how their final 2 games are going to play out, but from March 1st, where they're 31st in league in goals, their record is 9-10-1. That's a .475 points percentage. That's not good.
No.
Keep finding himself in these situations.
Like what situation?
Like where his team is just locked in to
he's not
whatever
playing for
spot they're in
anything?
forever.
Yeah. Could it be a system? I don't know if it's Keefe. I think it's I think it's the
Bettman.
NHL system.
Yeah.
It's Bettman and a lack of Jack Hughes.
That's probably true. Okay,
And
so
Hamilton.
on the Carolina side, and this is something that they are not known for, is scoring, but they can. Jackson Blake has sort of stepped in and got himself 17 goals, and this is a 4th round pick. Hobie Baker, 4th runner up, I want to say. Took him a bit to find a spot, but he did, next to Aho and Seth Jarvis, Janikowski, Svechnikov, Taylor Hall in the second line. You also have Logan Stankoven, who was brought over from his trade in Dallas, and he's been half a point a game. When you compare that to the Devils forwards, how does it stack up? I mean, listen, the Devils are missing scoring, but Carolina arguably doesn't score that much anyway.
Well, Jankowski's going for the Cy Young Award. He's got 8 goals, no assists in 17 games. Stankoven also has the 8 points in 17 games. But the thing I have my eye on with those guys is they started so hot in Carolina, and they've kind of cooled off a bit. So it's difficult to look at them and be like, oh, well, now they're just going to run all over the place and they're going to light it up. No, I think Carolina's still going to win games or try to win games the way they always have, just by being deep and defensively responsible, and also having Taylor Hall.
That helps, Jesse.
Like he's the one guy where I'm like, how'd you get on the Canes? But he's doing well.
Now, Steve, you know this. Carolina lacks a little bit of finish. They're really good at getting opportunities. They're really good at stopping their opponent, but they're not great at capitalizing on their own scoring opportunities. They get a whole abundance of them, and they're eventually able to push through, but they really don't have that X factor of where they capitalize on all of their great chances.
I can't tell if this series is going to be beautiful hockey or where fandom goes to die.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I think there's room for this to be an incredible series, but
Who do you pick then? Let's give me your predictions.
I've gone back and forth 3 times since we started shooting this. I think the Devils give them hell. I think they're going to beat up on Carolina, like I said. I still give it to Carolina, and I'm going to say 6 games.
Jesse.
Give me the Devils in 7.
Oh,
You can bring
I love it.
You bring up my boy right there.
Yeah.
I don't hate that
There's
pick at all.
Buddy.
The Devils.
The Devils.
I'm saying Carolina in 6, but Jesse's pick is way more fun.
Yeah, no, I think as when watching the Rangers Carolina series last year that Steve did not stream, I streamed, despite his memory thinking he did it.
Whoops.
The Carolina, they always flame out in the playoffs the exact same way. It's we
Not in the first round though.
Not in the first. When they do flame out, it's the same way.
Yep.
We looked great. We had a whole bunch of opportunities, and we weren't able to score those goals. And if the Devils are going to win, they're going to capitalize on the very little opportunities they have. They're going to get a lot of quick goals off the rush, and the little opportunities they're going to score, and Carolina is going to fail in their moments. So I hope that's how it plays out to back up my pick. But yeah, Devils in 7.
I will offer this thought. So I pick Carolina to win. I'm not backing off that. If Jake Markstrom is just consistently the goalie he's paid to be, New Jersey wins it no problem.
Wow.
But he rarely is.
Well, he is the reason that if you're a goaltender, 10 the goal exists. We'll see if any wandering happens in this series. That is your Devils
Who's
and
your
Canes
pick?
preview. I already said Carolina in 6.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
cool.
and leave your predictions and why in the comments, please.